I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Simon Bradbury of Thomas Morris Estate Agents today. Simon, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you jumping on
Very
Zoom with
welcome.
me. And we're just going to have a chat about the awesome subject of anti-money laundering. And you guys have been using Smart Compliance now since last summer, so summer 2022. Just, I think for my sort of benefit as well, what were your processes prior to rolling out Smart Compliance?
Okay. Prior, I would say, and we thought this was the norm and the right thing to do, all of our processes were totally centered around the anti-money laundering reporting officer. In our case, a chap called Nick Clark. And it was something that we thought, well, it's nothing to do with us on the front line, it's all to do with Nick. And what would happen is we do a risk assessment. By the way, Nick, the anti-money laundering reporting officer, said that the old risk assessment was even more onerous actually than the one that we use with you guys. So we do that. We do electronic check, verify ID, check out if people were pets or whatever, and then move forward. And that was it. That was it, really. And it felt in the branches that was okay. But now, Nick's view, and I spoke with him only earlier this morning about this, he just is chalk and cheese now. You know, he actually enjoys his AML responsibilities. Well, perhaps he was exaggerating when he said he enjoys them. But they're much, he still has involvement, of course, but much less onerous. So that's what we did beforehand, and we thought that was normal.
Okay, so you were doing a lot of the enhanced due diligence yourself. So once you'd done the sort of electronic checks, you were having to do that in branch yourselves, and Nick was overseeing that. So I'm sure Nick does appreciate the fact we just, carry out all that enhanced due diligence and he gets to just sign it off now, which is great.
Yeah.
So obviously I know quite a lot of your branch staff, the lovely humans that they are. What was their first reaction when you told them about rolling out Smart Compliance? How did that sit with them?
Well, there's been a range of reactions. So I'm going to, I would say, if I can say up, down, up, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Okay. So to start with, people thought, oh, great, a new system. We love a system and a process at Tom. So we'll have a go at this new system. So there's this little bit of excitement is probably too strong a word, but anticipation. Then we said, oh, by the way, obviously, we're now going to be charging people. Oh, okay. We'll perhaps cover that in a bit more detail, but in general, there was a bit of concern. Then we went through the process of learning the new processes. And what happened, I'm going to be really honest with you, Amy, okay? So
absolutely, please do.
Okay. At its zenith, or at its depth, it was, oh, bloody hell, what are we doing this for now? Because I've got Mrs. Vendor whinging. I've got Mrs. Vendor's husband whinging at the whole process. So then it went down. But then what we did, because as I mentioned, we love a new process at Thomas Morris, we then started to identify where these whinges were coming from and what they were all about. And what we found predominantly, and I don't mean 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%, I mean 98% of all the whinges that were coming were because our people with the new process are not properly set expectations for the people that were receiving the calls to go through the compliance. Once we got that bit worked out, then things started to improve a lot. The confidence of the team started to improve a lot. The confidence of the individuals on the front line improved a lot. And from then onwards, we've built on this relationship. I know there's a tendency, I was going to say particularly amongst estate agents, I don't know if I'm right in saying that, to think, oh, we're the customer, and you're the supplier, and we get kicked so hard by our customers, we're going to let off some of our then. I don't see it like that. So I've never seen it like that. I genuinely see it. I know it's a bit corny to say a partnership, but I genuinely do see it as a partnership.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works. Like any partnership, Amy, it has its ups and downs. But so we had an initial, oh, that's exciting. Then it started to go down a bit. And should we really charge? And will we be able to charge? And oh my God, I'm getting some whinges. And then okay, let's work this thing. And then gradually it's improved and improved and improved. So now it's the norm.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely correct in preparing the client. And actually now, after actually conversations with a lot of the former LSLI brands, will openly admit the training kind of upstepped with us on helping you prepare the client, and helping the branch staff, and giving them the confidence in having that conversation with their clients. I think that's really important.
Speaking of that confidence, could I just touch a little bit upon the charging? Because I know, and I put my hand up to say, me too, to use the modern idiom, me too. I was a bit worried about people, how they would react to saying we're going to charge them. Honestly, of all the challenges that we face, that has been the least one of them. We occasionally get a bit of pushback. Even when we get pushback, it's easily overcomable, and it is amazing. I mean, I've probably been in a estate agency longer than you have because I'm so old now. But I know for a long time, it's no sell, no fee, and that was it. Then we had home information packs with the idea of charging people up front for something was introduced. Now various agencies have special marketing charges that they use. And I genuinely believe, and it's been my personal experience on the front line, that most people have no issues about paying for things up front if they see proper value in it. And that's the key word, proper value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so much talk now in the press and social media. And I know a lot of the sort of agency WhatsApp groups about, is it okay to charge for AML? And it's a whole big conversation. Yeah. And I totally understand that there's two sides to that argument, but fundamentally it's a legal requirement. It's solicitors and conveyancers, majority of them again charge for anti-money laundering checks. So, to comply with HMRC legislation, estate agents should be able to pass that cost on and not actually burden the cost. Because people want to sell and buy houses.
And do it legally and compliantly.
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of agents that we work with that do use that strapline, in that we want to be compliant, we want to be in line with legislation, and that's why we've partnered up with Smart Compliance and Lifetime Legal to carry out these checks for us. So that's great. And I think moving on to that, so what did you see as boss man at Thomas Morris? What were, for you and Steve, obviously your operations director, what were the main benefits to switching over to Smart Compliance last summer? What did you see as the wins?
Well, there were a number of advantages. In terms of the simple compliance piece, to me, this is what it felt like, and this is what it continues to feel like. I just feel so much more confident that we're doing the right thing. There are plenty of questions about AML and is this right and is that right? To working with somebody whose only expertise, or sorry, not only expertise, but has like yourselves, have a real expertise in actually knowing what the law is, in actually knowing what makes us compliant, is a massive advantage. Particularly as you guys, in effect, indemnify us against any horrible claims in the event that we did get sued. Goodness me, I hope that never ever happens. But as long as we've stuck by the process, we know that we're completely safe. And that is so I would say confidence is the biggest advantage. Confidence.
Yeah. And it's a business owner or an MD, at the top, that responsibility that you guys carry as estate agents is huge. Our HMRC guarantee is exactly designed to give you that confidence, so that you can, I guess, sleep at night.
To that point, it still astounds me. I mean, sometimes a little warning light goes off in my brain, my weird brain, and it's to do with this, that so many agents, okay, I'm tempted to say the majority, but I could be disingenuous when I say the majority, but it feels like the majority of agents don't care about money laundering procedures. That's what it feels like. And so sometimes you think, are we going over the top here? Are we doing too much? And then you'll read an article about somebody being fined, you'll read an article about somebody being challenged in court, and you think, no, the rest of the agents can do what the rest of the agents do. And genuinely, when I'm in a house presenting to a vendor, putting aside all the other stuff, the fact that we even mention anti-money laundering gives people an insight into the integrity of Thomas Morris and the way we do our work.
I love that. I really love that. And I think that's a great conversation for your valuers and listeners to have with clients. And moving on to those kind of conversations, we spoke not long ago, obviously on the phone. You called me and wanted to learn more about our mover protection products, which is obviously part of the lifetime legal membership that all of your buyers and sellers get, and we carry out their checks. Why did you call me on that? What did you, I think let's talk about that discussion.
Okay, because what had been happening, Amy, and the reason I called you, I can remember that conversation very clearly. There was a number of things going on in my weird brain. I'd had a couple of 3 appointments recently where I was talking to people about mover protection. And I just wondered, I shouldn't have done, but I wondered if it was for real in the sense, I know you guys would never get us to offer a product that didn't exist, but how many people actually ever used it? And again, I guess I was looking for that confidence, really. So that was the reason. And then you explained to me that, yes, it was used on a very significant number of occasions. And then I challenged you, if you remember, yes, but anybody from Thomas Morris? Oh, yes. And I think from recollection, you referenced, I think we got 3 first-time buyers. Now, I'm embarrassed to say I wasn't aware of this. I am now, but I wasn't aware of the fact. I think at the time we had 3... Was it 3 first-time buyers that were claimed total back of 2?
So interestingly, to date, Thomas Morris have now had 9 claims submitted to us. We've had all the forms back in and 3 claims results go through. And actually, interestingly, so all 3 are the same scenario and same situation. So actually, sellers who've just taken the property off the market for one reason or the other. So all 3 were actually first-time buyers. And we've paid them out in total, the 3 of them together was just over £2,500, which is quite significant.
Well, it is significant. And just for those 3 first-time buyers, what on earth are they going to think about Thomas Morris, to be honest, us reflecting in your glory? I mean, there's no PR can buy a personal experience like that, where people are getting back hundreds of pounds. And I think it's a massive thing. So this might sound like an exaggeration, and perhaps it is an exaggeration, but now I almost feel that the money they pay is worth it just for the mover's protection. I think it's really, really important where you position this in your presentation. Now at Thomas Morris, we have a presentation plan, and it really revolves around 6 stages. The welcome when you first meet them, the walk around when you walk around the house, presentation of the house price, presentation of our services, presentation of our fees, and then finally the close. So we recognise 6 stages. And where we position, or certainly when I'm presenting at a property, where we position this proposition is under the fee section. So I will allude to, during the presentation of services and explanation of what's going to happen, I will allude to the fact that I understand the industry average for fall-throughs, cancellations, whatever euphemism you use, is about a third. At Thomas Morris, I can demonstrate to you, because of the way that we do our business, that our cancellation rate for sales is approximately 25%. So I've already alluded to that previously in the presentation. When I get to the fee bit, which again is where I find a lot of agents are a little bit, what's going to happen? I'm really strong and bold and clear about what we charge to sell the house. I'll then make a reference to the EPC. That's whether they've got an EPC or not, because I want them to understand that things are different now to what they were 10 or 15 years.
The legal requirements.
You've got it. That's how I frame it in that way. And then I explain to them that, particularly if it's a while since they've sold a home, the legislation now surrounding the sale of a property is massively more complicated than it was. Please don't shoot the messenger, Mrs. Vendor. But there's a legal requirement now upon us to do these things. We at Thomas Morris like to do this thing properly. We team up with a fantastic company who will contact you and sort everything out. There's a charge of £60, including VAT, and included within that are a lot of the company that will speak to you will go through the detail of it, but essentially it protects you against any costs or certain specified costs that you may have been liable to if your sale or purchase falls through. Now, what I find is being bold and straight, clear and transparent, which is what people do not expect from an estate agent. That in itself, I mean, I'll often say, I'm sure the other agent mentioned this to you. Hey, guess what? The other agent didn't mention anything to them. But by adding on that fantastic mover protection product, it really makes us different. We're always talking about USPs, and in a estate agency nowadays, there are very, very few USPs, very, very few.
Yeah,
very
agreed.
few USPs. But this is something that certainly at this moment in time, none of our competitors offer. It's very compelling.
Do you think, I think from my part as an ex-agent, I always thought it, and the way I looked at it was it's a bit of a good conversation to have, and it builds up that trust and confidence. And I think having, like I say, it's a differentiator. It differentiates you from the competition because you're not scared to have those conversations about the legal requirements and fees. But for me, surely it builds up that trust and confidence in you as a person, because we all know people buy people, and it builds that trust with you as the person, not necessarily just the brand.
I agree with you. You've used that word trust quite a lot, 4 or 5 times during this discussion. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it is so much about trust. I don't know if how many of your agency customers use the home moving trends survey that EA Masters put, or Property Academy put out. We always participate in it, and in the last, and we get a lot of contributors to that. And because we get a lot of contributors, we get a report that calibrates the responses from prospective sellers for our results compared to the national average. And in the last one, the results of which I think I got in November of last year, 59% of people, which was the highest response, chose Thomas Morris as their agent of choice because of trust, compared to a national average of 41. So trust is undoubtedly, and you know, is undoubtedly one of the most, in our particular situation, the single most important reason why people trust us. And I agree with you. By delivering people information that is integrous and true, but not necessarily what they want to hear, absolutely builds up that trust.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think it just has that. I know several other agents that we work with that really play on, like you guys, the legal requirements, the compliance that's now involved, because they don't understand actually what you guys have to go through to put a house on the market. It's incredible. You know, gone are the days where you just write down the passport number.
Oh yeah, I can remember the days. I can remember the days you won't. I can remember the days I didn't even have to have passport numbers. Blimey, we didn't even have agency agreements. I mean, I'd see somebody in the afternoon, in the morning, and I'd have it on the market in the afternoon and sold it by 6 o'clock. So yes, they do not appreciate that. I can't say enough. I totally agree with that issue that you're saying there about trust. That is quantifiably, factually, indisputably the most important thing. And once you've got that trust, which is then reinforced when people have the experience of going through this AML procedure and they see what happens, massive trust blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they get a nice professional experience. They get their AML checks done. They get their lifetime legal membership with the mover protection. They get their free will if they want it. So it just makes you guys, like you said, it makes you guys look good, doesn't it?
We take all the glory.
I'll take that all day long, Simon.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Well, thank you, Simon, so much for jumping on video with me today. I really appreciate your time, and have an awesome rest of the day.
Good fun. Right back at you. Bye.
Bye.